Everyone, welcome to the webinar, Unlocking the Power of Process Mining with Generative AI. My name is Daniel Hughes, and I'll be your moderator today. This is going to be about a 45-minute presentation. Toward the end, we'll try to save time for some questions. If during the presentation you have questions, please enter them in the Q&A, and I will get to them towards the end. We are joined today by James Henderson. He's the CEO of Mindsy. After years of operating global businesses and seeing the impact a focus on process or operational excellence had on the business, and he switched from there to focusing on building technology that can help businesses gain the insight that they need to drive improvement. And that's where Mindsy came from. So welcome to the stage, James. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As Daniel mentioned, today's webinar we're really going to be focusing on the combination of process mining, basically business process intelligence with generative AI, and how this transformative combination is really enabling a whole new era. So I'll be walking you through the webinar today. We'll also take you through a little bit of real life use cases as well as we go through. And as Daniel mentioned, happy to answer questions at the end here, assuming that we still have some time. So please type them in the chat as we go along, and Daniel will be kind enough to read them out for us at the end of the presentation. We'll try and get everything answered for you. Again, my name's James Henderson, founder and CEO of Mindsy. As Daniel mentioned, my background is in operating a wide range of different companies prior to joining on with Mindsy and developing this technology to help transform organizations. So let's dive right in here. So I don't think there's a person on this planet involved in technology that is not talking about generative AI at this point. From my own personal perspective, I don't think there has been a technology since the mass adoption of the cell phone, or maybe even the iPhone, that has been so transformative for the globe. The reality of generative AI is that it is truly reshaping the world at an extraordinary pace. You know, when you think about what it can do, what it's capable of, and really, as we'll talk about through this presentation, its ability to be such a significant force multiplier for anything that is applied to correctly and safely is really astounding. You know, I think if you look at some of the early releases of large language models and these chat interfaces, they hit usage rates that were unfathomable, right? Millions of people using it within days and weeks because the accuracy and the potential for it is just that great. That being said, as I talk to leaders throughout the globe, in any geographic location, different sizes and scopes of organizations, from Fortune 500 even down to sort of mid-enterprise scale organizations, they're all talking about the use of generative AI and a desire to apply it within their organization, but they really just don't know where and how, right? They understand that it's transformative. They're seeing how it's reshaping the globe. They just don't know what problems it helps solve for their company. And that's a huge barrier to entry, because they need to understand where they're going to apply it to have an effective return on investment. Here at Mindsy, we have really been cutting edge in terms of leading the pack in use of AI, specifically within the realm of business process intelligence. We see it, as everyone else does, as this transformative technology that is such a huge enabler that it's a must-have when you start to look at tools and the future of how people interact with systems. So as we talk about this combination in terms of putting these two revolutionary technologies together, as mentioned, it really is, this giant awakening of what can be done, or really, as I like to call it, the art of the possible, right? Combining the operational knowledge of process intelligence tools. How does your company actually work? How do you actually get things done from start to finish? With generative AI's ability to understand information, provide clear responses, really means that now organizations putting these two things together can not only unlock how they work and where the opportunities are to work better, but do so in a manner that democratizes how they access that information and the insights buried within it. Meaning that you no longer necessarily need PhDs to be able to translate this operational intelligence and be able to gain insight from it. And it is such a powerful combination that I truly believe, as it becomes further and further deployed, is going to unlock more potential than ever for organizations. Simply due to the fact that the combination of the two has now the domain knowledge and the power to explain and garner insight from that domain knowledge about an organization. So as we talk about its impact on process mining specifically, when you take a step back and you look at the rise of process mining technology, some people refer to it as process intelligence, but really this ability to take the digital traces of how work gets done, right, and turn it and transform it in a manner where you can now understand how to make things better, where those opportunities are to drive improvements with your organization. That concept has really been focused at sort of organizations of scale, right? The highest impact for driving these operational efficiency efforts really comes more and more as you talk about organizations that tend to have higher levels of transactions. And they could be large scale organizations, Fortune 500, they can go down to medium scale. We even see it with some smaller scale businesses where they're doing lots of things and there's an opportunity to figure out how to do it better. But the general consensus when you think about process mining is you're dealing with large volumes of data, right? And yes, you're transforming it in a way to understand what the process flow is, but generally it's this large concerted volume of data that you are transforming and now analyzing to try and understand insights. And the reason why we at Mindsy have invested so heavily early on in artificial intelligence in this combination is when you think about the best applications for generative AI, it's helping to comb through and understand large volumes of data. So it's a perfect intersection or application for the same concept at which process mining is being applied. Taking these large volumes of data and helping people make sense of them, or more specifically, helping people get the answers they need in a more efficient manner. And when you think about that in a process improvement scale, it really means that you are efficiently getting the information you need. So more of your time is spent on impacting the organization to its benefit. So when we combine these two basically game-changing technologies, you're talking about transforming data in a manner that's never been done before so organizations understand how they work, and then enabling it or overlaying it with generative AI to provide quicker time to insight. It really has a fundamental shift on how people work, right? The overwhelming amount of data and tasks when you think about operationalizing things in the real world that people have to do on the day-to-day really leaves them little free time. It means they don't have a tremendous amount of time to try and understand metrics, try and understand KPIs, and sometimes even trying to drive the change that is necessary, because there's all this work to get to a level of understanding. So when you combine generative AI with process mining, the first thing you're really doing is you're enabling users at different skill levels, at different layers within your organization, to get the information they need. Because you really want to remove this idea of digging with any level of information that you're providing them, reports, KPIs, metrics, and really have them focus on, okay, this is what I needed to know. So now I can focus more of my time on making those impactful changes, right? Doing those things that's going to help the business. So the first thing you really get out of it is this concept of enabling a broader spectrum of users. And the interesting part that we've seen as we start deploying this across the globe is you're enabling not only a broader spectrum of business users who can start to inquire and gain insight, but it's being used just as much by business analysts who really want a simpler way to interact with a platform to gain the knowledge that they need or that the business is asking them to go get. And in all those cases, it eliminates this idea of searching and digging, right? We're not searching through large volumes of data anymore. We're not digging through information. We're not trying to spend all of our time unwinding these complex data models. We're simply being able to now ask what we need of the system and getting accurate, actionable insight. And it does provide a level of clarity as well. You know, as someone who's operated businesses, I've seen huge volumes of reports going out at different levels of the business, different types of what, the people who design the reports believed were insights. But the reality was, when I was operating my last business, I eliminated 90% of those reports, because it turned out, as I dug into them a little bit, they were just busy work. And what I mean by busy work is that they were being sent out within the organization, but no one was doing anything with them. No one understood how to read them. No one understood what they should do from them. No one understood how to impact the metrics and KPIs that were being provided. So there was this lack of clarity, which meant that generating a lot of these reports were frankly just busy work for another analyst team. So when you think about generative AI, its ability to provide clear instruction, clear responses. This is what you're looking at. Tell me about it. What else can you explain to me? Provides a level of clarity. So not only are you enabling them to get to the insights they need faster, but you're making sure that they understand, or giving them a mechanism to be able to understand what those insights mean. And then as you think about that in broader terms, all of these things combined start to enable a level of business continuity, where you have process intelligence around how your business actually works, with a layer of generative AI to explain that information. So when you talk about promoting new leaders, when you talk about staff changes that happen and these other things, that level of domain knowledge can stick around within the business, enabled by this powerful combination of technologies. And what that leaves for your organization is a platform where Mindsy can enhance not only the process discovery aspect, but it can turn this complex data into actionable intelligence, right? Enabling your users at any level, whether it's a business analyst, a business user, anyone in between, to make some very pointed and very intelligent insights from that solution. So imagine now you're able to ask the system, what should I be looking for, right? What do people typically analyze when I look at a specific area of the business? Maybe it's my meter to cash process. Maybe I want to look at vendor management. Maybe I want to look at order to cash, my product delivery from warehouse to customer, and that last mile. What are people looking at? So if I'm new to this type of analysis or discovery project, I can gain the insight I need of what should I be looking for. You can learn directly about the data by simply asking questions to the AI. hey, what's the slowest part of my data? Where are the bottlenecks in this process? What are things I should do to potentially optimize that? What's causing that problem? And all of that get clear actions to take, because now we're talking about specific, detailed information that you can leverage to impact your operations, right? Driving that efficiency, which is the entire purpose of all of these tools, is really the focus on what is the outcome. And the outcome is, I want this tool so I can get the insights that I need to make my business better. Not technology for the sake of technology's sake, but technology for the sake of being able to drive operational excellence within an organization. Strive to be the best at what you do. And the generative AI and AI in general is not just impacting things like process intelligence, but in the Mindsy platform, we are really leveraging this technology at every step. So beyond just the analysis, even into the data preparation. So when you start to talk about how do I get the data that I have and put it into a mechanism that I can analyze, right? It's been a common question in the world of process mining. Leveraging AI now, we are able to provide a new level of ability, even at the data preparation stage. Imagine being able to ask, tell me about my data structure. Find all of the things with dates and times that might make good activities, because I've never looked at this data before. Tell me how I should put the data together to make it the most effective to use. Being able to now generate the data and transform it in a way that you can maximize the benefit of the analysis and insights at the other end, and having AI guide you the whole time on how to put your data together. So now you see AI starting to become this intrinsic part of the entire technology stack for organizations when we talk about business process intelligence. So what's the ROI as we start to talk about these things, and why is Mindsy invested so heavily in AI, all the way to the point where we are leading the pack in terms of deployments? When you think about it as a force multiplier, as enabling people to get to what they need in an easier, faster, more effective way, studies are showing that it can increase productivity by up to 66%. And I honestly think that that number, in my personal opinion, is on the low side. Any of you who have started to engage with using generative AI technology, which is probably a large amount, can know that when you want to now search the internet, you want to learn how to do something, you want to write an article, all of these things that have been impacted, right? You're looking for code snippets, all these things that have been impacted by AI. Think about how much faster you are able to do that thanks to the use of this technology. And that's what we're seeing in the business process improvement world as well. That this ability for AI to help us transform, prepare, and understand the data and recommend potential areas to look at and what we should do to fix it is just such a powerful combination that I honestly believe that we're only going to see this accelerate further in the future. That you are going to become more efficient, so much more efficient at what you do, because you spend less time trying to do that digging that I talked about earlier. So now, how does this really come together? The reality is at Mindsy, we have been deploying AI technology for some time now, and we've intrinsically built it into the platform so it is available to everyone who wants to use it. We'll talk about some of the different options here as we move throughout this webinar, but it's available as an intrinsic part of the platform. It's not some add-on, some afterthought, some upsell. We truly believe that AI is changing the world And we think it's changing the way that people interact with systems, and really for the better. So we built it everywhere into the platform, and our customers are already using it today. So if you take a step back and say, well, how are they using it? Think of it as, in this particular use case, we have a VP and director of procurement. They are overwhelmed with what they need to do on a day-to-day basis already, right? They have very demanding jobs and very demanding environments in, frankly, what is a very challenging time still for anyone that's in the supply chain world. And really what they want to know is, in this case, how do we learn about our processes and where can we drive improvements? What they don't want is to take long-winded courses on how to learn new technologies, because they're struggling with having enough time to do their day-to-day job and then trying to find ways to drive improvement. But with generative AI embedded into our platform now they're starting to dig a little deeper, and not dig in the sense where I have to look, but become curious and being able to ask the system questions. What should I be looking for? What are the biggest delays? And for these individuals, it has really changed the way that they think about technology, because for them now, they have become so much more efficient. Instead of having to go to a team of individuals and request from IT service tickets and get with your FP&A team to get a little bit more detail, they're starting to use the system themselves. They're starting to ask the questions using this generative AI interface, because the responses that they get, they can understand. And now if you think of the layers that they had to go through previously in order to get the information they need, all starting to be eliminated with this easier way for them to access the insights that they need. We had another quick example here in the order management space, right? The head of order management that was charged with, how do you make your business more efficient, right? Your department needs to run better. We're a growing business. And I think this organization was growing north of 50% year over year. So that's staggering growth for an organization to keep up with. So you have an order management person who was struggling to keep their department running, and charged from upper management with, you need to find ways to make it better. The challenge was, how do I keep up with my day-to-day job again? And what can I do to make it better? Where do I get that insight? So combining process intelligence with generative AI, we enabled this individual now to not only have the transparency on what was actually happening, but to be able to interpret and ask and understand through an interface that they were very comfortable with. So they could dive into that data, they could ask the questions they needed, they could do all these things, again, without more staff, without adding additional layers into the organization, but simply by providing them a solution that gave them that intelligence of how the organization operated, and overlaid that intelligence with the generative AI power for them to be able to understand it in natural language and get the insights they need from natural language questions. And it's really, for these two examples, transformed the way that these individuals think about how to gain insight, how to leverage data, right? It's transforming that idea that we need an entire army of people to get me the information that I need, and it's going to take too long, so I'm not going to ask the question, into, I can have this in minutes, seconds. I can get the details that I need and get back to focusing on those improvements. So let's look at this in action. And I'm going to pause here and share out a different screen so that we can see this in a live example applied within the Mindsy Studio, and give the audience here a taste of what is available in the real world today. Bear with me, audience, here where we get, I'll figure out how to share this. Let's share a new window here. Okay, and Daniel, can you confirm for me that you can see the new Mindsy Studio screen?
It looks good.
Fantastic. So before we dive into gaining some of the insights here, I did want to touch on the idea that at Mindsy, we are deploying AI at every level of the platform. So not just at the analysis stage, but for those of you that are familiar with doing process intelligence, setting up systems, all the way into enabling a AI-driven co-pilot to help with data preparation and data design. So all the way from our data designer in through to the front end and everything in between, we are leveraging the power of purpose-built large language models to better enable users at every level to gain insight and do their job. So when we start to think about what can it do, how can we apply this? Really now you're starting to get into a layer of limitless possibilities. And I'll explain a little bit later, but the way we have architected the solution is each customer can decide their comfort level of leveraging AI. From I don't want to use it at all, to I want to use it as a companion, to I want to help it understand my data. So we can ask specific things, right? Maybe I want a generic, just tell me about my data. What is it that I need to understand, or more importantly, in this scenario, what is it I'm working with, right? It's the first time I've seen this data. It's the first time that I've started to look and analyze, and I just want to know, what am I dealing with? What do I have here? So you can ask it generic questions and get responses about what is exactly in my data and what should I start to be digging through. Now, the interesting part, as we talked about through the webinar here so far, is that yes, you can ask it about your data, but what if I've never done this before, right? What if I'm new to the idea of process analysis? And I just want to now understand what I should be doing. So I'm new at my job, I'm new to the organization, maybe I've been given a tool now or charged with a tool to say, hey, we've just invested in Mindsy. We want you to go do some analysis on our procure to pay, or to cash, master data management, whatever process the business is looking to analyze and optimize, and you're not sure what to do. So not only can the AI act as a way for you to extract and gain insight about your organization, about your data, it can also act as your coach. And you can ask it for things like, what should I be looking for? What should I do? What do other companies look for in these types of processes? What are the steps that I should be taking as I start to look to take this on? So you have this interesting combination of being able to understand not only about your data, but also discover some recommendations on things that you should look at, because you might be charged with looking at a specific thing. But keep in mind that when you think about process mining and business process intelligence platforms, it is an entirely new way to look at your business. For most organizations, it's a whole new layer of transparency. It's an X-ray on their business that they've never had before. So when you think about it from that perspective, it's new. So even though you might be looking in one area, there is all types of other insightful information that you might be able to discover. And sometimes you just need that help to understand, where should I be looking? What should I be doing? And again, it can be generic. or it can be specific, right? What if I'm not sure? Tell me what the slowest part of my process is. The ability now for you to have these different layers of insights, these different levels of granularity, all the way from a generic coach that can tell you here are the things that we should be looking at and trying to discover and analyze, down to an insightful, detailed colleague who says, these are the problems. Here's the slowest areas of your process, and any combination in between, all by simply typing and asking natural language questions. So let's flip over to another example that I have over where we get a little bit more specific, right? And we're looking at now an accounts payable process, right? What do I need to know? Well, maybe this one I'm charged with a specific thing. Which vendors are the slowest to pay? And I want to know, what is the cause? And this is where the combination of the two technologies, this context of how your business works, coupled with the ability to ask natural language insights, is a whole new world, because we can go beyond just who are the slowest vendors to pay, all the way into a deep dive into what's causing them to pay so slow. Is there a key factor here that I really need to dive into within my organization? And that combination of the two now really unlocks these limitless possibilities. And what we're seeing is the best run businesses of the world are turning to this combination of insightful technology, the ability to transform and understand the process, combined with Gen AI's ability for me to unlock those insights to really get to this whole new level of operational efficiency. And I'm going to switch back to the presentation here, so bear with me, group, as we flip back over. But as you think about this combination, from a Mindsy perspective, the biggest thing that I want you to think about it is it becoming an intrinsic part of every area of our platform. It is not an afterthought. It's not an add-on. It's live today, being leveraged by our customers throughout the globe to get better at what they do. So as we start to think about the leverage of large language models, there's a number of other factors that start to come into play. And as we deploy this technology throughout the globe and for different sizes and scales of organizations, we've had a huge focus on security, what I like to call security by design, not security as an afterthought. So what that means in our platform is, as I mentioned before, you can control the level of access the AI has. You decide how embedded you want the AI to be, from turning it off to a general coach that can give you some responses on things that you should look at, all the way down to helping you with your data, and everything in between. But as an organization, you can gradually step into those different layers to ensure that your organization is comfortable with the use of AI and how it's being applied. The other thing that we've designed intrinsically in the platform is the ability for you to leverage your own LLMs as well. So you can leverage our AI, you can combine it with our on-premise solution and leverage on-premise LLMs. You can even have it leverage your own company's LLM if you're that far along and your company is developing its own AI models, and any combination between. But it really means that you have that flexibility to work with the Mindsy platform and intrinsically decide where AI fits into your general organization's approach and at what levels you want to be able to deploy it. Now, where do we go from here? So as we start thinking about the future at Mindsy, we truly believe that this generative AI is going to transform every aspect of how people interact with our platform, and more importantly, how they gain the intelligence they need to improve their business. And as part of that, we are already actively piloting what we believe is the future, which is the ability now to provide at different levels of an organization the insights they need directly to them with recommended actions so that they can focus on the improvements even further. Automatically delivered AI-driven insights tailored to their business needs, tailored to the department, the division, the operating level, from tactical insights to a supervisor to maybe more general overview operational insights to a VP to executive level bulleted summaries and everything in between, delivered directly to the users that need it at the frequency that they need it. Going beyond this idea of standard KPIs and metrics into a world of focused operational intelligence. And as we continue to evolve, you'll see us talking more and more about this as we do more of these deployments across the globe, leveraging all of these technologies combined to really enable the future of business. And, you know, as I get questions from different people around the globe around the use of AI, the reality is, for as good as it is today, and it is staggeringly good, it is only going to accelerate. The average compute rate, the compute power right now available to AI is growing at something like 100 times pace annually. So what does that look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years around? The growth is staggering, and that's going to enable these models to get better, which means that the future of the insights of what we are able to garner from data is going to be not only faster, but easier, and continue to be more impactful for organizations. And I truly believe that the best run organizations are going to start to invest in this combination today, and grow and accelerate with these types of technologies to become best in class within their industry. So with that, I will take a pause and open it up for some questions. Thank you for joining us. Again, my name is James Henderson, CEO of Mindsy. I put a couple of links at the end here. If you do want to get started with some of the technology that we've seen, keep in mind that our AI is deployed across our portfolio. So even in our free desktop edition that we've made available to the entire business process intelligence community, it is also enabled with the AI Copilot. And with that, Daniel, I'll pass it back to you, and we'll see if there's any questions.
Thanks, James. There are a number of questions in the chat. So let me see if I can take a few of those for you. So the first one, I guess, is probably, do you think that companies will really implement AI with all of the challenges that we've seen that it's facing?
You know, I think that's a great question, and one that I hear quite frequently. The one resounding thing that I will say is that at the executive level, as mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, they are without a doubt of the mindset that AI is a technology, and specifically generative AI, that they need to be investing in. They see how it's changing the world. They see how it has the potential to change their business. I mentioned, I think a lot of them are just short in understanding how to do it. But the reality is there will always be some that don't. And when I talk and give presentations and when I talk to executives, I use the analogy of it's kind of like the person on the horse and buggy looking at the first motor car and saying, no one's going to adopt it. I don't think that's going to be successful. No one's going to want that. The reality is this technology not only is going to, but is changing the world today. And the combination at Mindsy of how we've applied it, I can speak from our own personal experience that we are seeing all of our customers diving in to generative AI, and not so much hey, we're not sure if we want to use it. How do we use more? How do we leverage it further? How do we get to the point where we are only letting our customers or our internal users into a chat interface? We're in discussions about how do we access it from a mobile phone, from an internal app. The reality from what I have seen in the conversations we are having is it's not whether organizations are going to use it. It's how quickly can they get it implemented.
Awesome. So I think this question probably comes from some of the wild failures we might have seen with AI. But with AI today, you need to evaluate its responses carefully for accuracy. How does Mindsy ensure accurate insights and prevent hallucinations?
I'll start off with hallucinations are a real thing for anybody who's really dove into this idea of generative AI and its usage. Generative AI is not a magic wand. It's an enabler, right? It leverages the people who are taking advantage of the technology to be more efficient in what they do. One of the big challenges that you will see is the concept of hallucinations, right? It's wrong answers or potentially inaccurate answers. And what we've seen from our long-term testing and even piloting in the early days with some of our early adopters was that it tends to hallucinate if you just try and throw the kitchen sink at it. So at Mindsy, we've actually layered our generative AI to be context sensitive. So not only on your data specifically, but also on analysis. And what that really means is you're feeding it a certain set of context. These are the things that I want you to be aware of and focus on. So when I ask questions, you relate it to this specific context. And it's that ability for us to give it specific context that has made the results that we're seeing and our customers are seeing extremely valuable and insightful. And it's really limited or eliminated that concept of hallucinations. So although the hallucinations are there, we've done a tremendous amount to ensure, and when I say they're generally in the AI community, with the way we've applied it, we've really put in the context necessary to eliminate the concept of hallucinations for businesses.
Excellent. Another question around context. So what is the context window of what AI learns from my organization? Is it specific to one session, one team week worth of usage, or Mindsy usage since the first day I log in?
So we continue to educate the platform to tailor it to your organization, so that when you talk about context, that's going to be two sets of context. That is the context of how you are interacting with the AI and what you need to get out of it in responses, and your ability and our ability to configure the system to meet the needs of those particular responses. But the other thing, because you're talking about it integrated into a full tech stack, is the constant learning of the ebbs and flows of your business. So when we talk about process intelligence and business optimization and operational excellence, I always talk to leaders as it is a continuous improvement exercise. It's not a one-time thing, right? You can do process discovery projects, but the best run businesses are constantly looking at this thing. And when you think about it in Mindsy's tech stack, that means we're connecting to systems, constantly refreshing data, and constantly providing updated insights. So what the Gen AI and one of the real advantages of it means it's constantly learning with the ebbs and flows of your business. So if I'm trying to discover bottlenecks, I might not have the same bottlenecks 90 days or 6 months ago as I do today. Ideally, I've discovered the ones 6 months ago and taken the steps to resolve them. So now my process has changed. Maybe it's become more efficient, and there's a new priority that I should focus on. And that context of continually evolving insights is what we also feed into the platform, so that as you ask it these questions and as you make changes in your business, as it grows, as it shifts, as you acquire, as you see these ebbs and flows in markets, the AI is growing along with you.
Excellent. Now let's have a question around security. So how about data security when it comes to using a third-party software for generative AI?
Data security, third-party software for generative AI. So I think the best I can give you is I'll talk about the context of how we apply it. So as mentioned earlier in the webinar, first and foremost, each organization that deploys our platform has the ability to decide their comfort level with its usage. All the way, as I mentioned, from turning it off to maybe I only want generic answers because I don't want it to understand my data, to the more advanced ones that say I want to be able to leverage it to analyze my data. So that's step one. The other step for organizations that are more advanced in their journey is their ability to decide what models we're using. Do you want to use our models? Do you want our platform to be plugged into your own models? Right? And keep in mind that we have a variety of architectures as well. So we can go with our cloud platform, but some of our customers in more highly secure government, healthcare, finance type of operations prefer on-premise installation still. So they use our on-premise platform, and they might use on-premise LLMs or their own on-premise LLM. So the data never leaves their organization. And it's really up to the entity to decide and communicate the architecture that is best for them, right? That they are comfortable with. And at Mindsy, we provide that flexibility for your organization to choose.
Good. So I'm going to combine a couple of these questions into one. So first, is it possible for me to test this with my own data, or do you have academic licenses for teaching and research purposes?
The simple answer is both. Yes, we offer academic licenses for students and teachers who are exploring different types of data mining and business intelligence. Those are available. I think there's a link on our website, or feel free to reach out to info@mindsy.com, and one of our people will help you get set up with that. So that is available. And as mentioned before, the AI is built into everything that we do, should you choose to enable it. So that's every layer of our platform, not as some type of afterthought or add-on module that you have to pay more for. So if you want to test it out with your data, if you prefer cloud, you can reach out to us and we can get you set up with a demo cloud tenant. You can also use the link on the screen here to download the desktop edition and load your own data right within your machine and start leveraging and testing the AI as well. So all of those options are available to you.
Perfect. And maybe one last one. I'm not sure how much depth you'll be able to go here, but there was a question about how Mindsy differs from Celonis.
I'll say Celonis is a fantastic product. We tend to serve just a different area of the market. So There are a lot of things that have made Mindsy stand out and why organizations are turning to Mindsy. Fundamentally, there are a few that tend to resonate with organizations right out of the box, whether it's consultants or end users. First of all, it's our flexibility of architecture, right? Cloud, on-premise, private cloud, even desktop really means that you have one solution that can fit quite a variety of customer needs or your own organizational needs. Two is generally how we take it to market with our simplicity in pricing and costing models. Makes it affordable for businesses to get started and then scales with the organization, also without the restrictions around data size limits and those sorts of things. And then, of course, third and certainly not least that comes to mind is really our focus on ease of use and advancement of technology. So like the webinar that you've joined today, our continued investment in being a leader in the use of things like generative AI, automated actions engines, no code interface, and a bunch of other things means that our tool can provide all of the insights that organizations need, grow with that organization from a discovery project all the way through to full operational intelligence and everything in between, and be leveraged by a wide range of users with its easy to use interface and no code approach. So it really provides us what we believe is quite a compelling business value proposition.
Perfect. Thank you. I think we're at the end of our time today. So any questions that we have remaining in the queue, we'll have the team try to answer those directly through email. So thanks for your time, James. Anything to wrap up before we end the webinar today?
No, thank you everyone for joining. Hopefully this was an insightful endeavor and exposure into the world of combining business process intelligence with generative AI, and you understand some of the value that it can bring for your organization.
Awesome. Thank you.